Hello, you're welcome to my channel. Today we'll be learning how to make this pant trouser in the minute. If this is the first time coming across that video, you're welcome. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you for always tuning in. You can use our handle to reach us. If you find this video helpful and you created it, you can reach us. Here we'll be making a straight pant, not a pencil pant trouser. Beside, you'll see the video of a pencil pant trouser. I have a detailed tutorial on how to draft a pencil pant trouser. You'll be needing a crepe fabric. I used 2.5 yards of crepe fabric for this because the hip I was working with was 43. So it's better you have excess than less. So let's get into it proper. On your pattern or directly to your fabric, if you're marking directly on the fabric, you're going to measure out 2 inch on fold. This is on fold. This is the fold part, okay? You're going to mark out 2 inch through the measurement that you're working with. The length I'm using here is 46. That's plus the sewing allowance and the hemming allowance for the base. So everything is 46. So I am going to mark out again 1.5 on the upper part. That will be like my baseline. Okay, so now I have two baseline, one by the side, 2 inch for that one because the ruler is 2 inch actually. 2 inch for that one. So now we're going to measure the hip. Measure your hip by into 4. What you have, that will give you your crotch depth. There's another way to get your crotch depth. You sit in a hard surface and measure from your waist to the high rise of your hip. Okay, so now I'm going to distribute what I have there for the crotch line. Okay, so from that crotch line, I didn't show it here now, but for the crotch line, just go up by 2. That's where you get your hip line. Okay, so now I am going to measure my hip measurement. Again, you see the baseline, that 2 inch baseline is serving as my guard line. Okay, so I'm going to measure 2 inch. That's my hip measurement, sorry, across. Then I'm going to connect down to the baseline. Okay, I'm going to connect. So now what I'm going to do is I'm measuring my length. Okay, like I said I worked with 46 length. The person is tall. I use 1.5 to sew to hem the down part. Okay, so that will give me like 44.5 or so when I was done sewing. So use your measurement like I always say. So now I'm going to put in my crotch extension. I divide my hip measurement by 20 for the front. Whatever I have, I will put it from the line of that hip measurement that I've already put there. So sorry it's not showing here. Then you just place your curve ruler. But if you don't have a curve ruler, where the point where the hip line is touching the crotch extension, you're just going to put 1 inch and you connect it back to the hip line. Okay. When the video shows fully, I'm going to point that back again. Sorry for that. I didn't know the camera didn't cover it very well. So now we've had our cross section. What we have is 13.5. So I'm going to divide it into 2. If you notice, the 2 inch I started with, that's my baseline. So that's where it's guiding all the measurement I'm actually taking. So that's my waist to my knee line. Standard is 20. 2022 at most, but standard is 20. Works for so many persons because I've been making trousers a lot and I noticed that 20 is standard for so many persons. So now I'm going to distribute the crotch measurement that I have gotten, that I've divided into 2. That will give me my crease line. That's what so this crease line is what will guide the rest of your measurement. For example, if you're making a straight pant, it's going to give you a pencil pant. You'll be able to distribute your measurement equally and your trouser will come out straight and there will be no bending to it. So I just imputed my new measurement. Okay, my knee measurement. So I worked with my knee measurement on this particular one because the person does not really want it fuller. Okay, there is something about fashion. It's you tailor to suit the customer's demand, especially you're not making it ready to wear, right? So you ask them question, how do you want it? How do you want it fit? So this is what the person wants. So I was only doing it to fit, but normally for a straight pant, whatever I had, like I divided my crotch into 2, I had 7. I would have distributed that 7 all around and it will give you this full, only the hip will be fitted, the rest you have in an even straight line down to the baseline. Okay, so but this person doesn't want it that way, so this is what the persons want. So I was customizing it to suit the customer. So I'm just connecting the lines. I said I used the knee measurement for the ankle measurement. Okay, so the measurement for the knee and the ankle is the same. Okay, so I'm just connecting the lines. Now look at the crotch measurement. You see what I said. I went up by 1 inch. I connected it to the hip point and to the crotch extension point with a curve. With, you understand? So when you're connecting this particular part now, you have to raise this your French curve up like so. It has to go up. You see, this is not a straight pen, a straight a pencil pant. So I didn't take the curve deeper. If it's a pencil pan, you contour it more, like you move it in a little bit. You move this upward, so it will deepen more. It will give this. I don't know if I'm explaining it well for you to understand, but I'm going to create a trouser course, okay, and make all the different kinds of pants, maybe 3 or 4, and put it up for sale. If you're interested, put in the comment section for me to know. So now I have added my sewing allowance, and I'm going to connect. For the side, you're going to add 0.5. Then that's for this particular side, I'm ruling now 0.5, 0.5. Then the other side, the same side, that's the same side, the hip line side, you're going to use 1 inch sewing allowance. Okay, so now let's work on the other side. Now I'm going to put my waist measurement. Okay, I added my waist measurement, and I'm going to eliminate 1 inch from my waist measurement. Now that 1 inch I'm eliminating is the dart. If, for example, if I'm going to put it that, I don't want to put it that, so I need the front to be flat. This works for me. Okay, I've been using it and it works perfectly for me. So I'm going to connect that to the hip line. Remember, the hip line measurement is the same as the crotch, extended towards the crotch, like so. It's not going to affect your measurement. But like I said when I started the video, I did not I said you go up from your crotch line, you go up by 2, that's where your hip measurements sits. Okay, so now I'm imputing it for tutorial purpose. Usually I gauge it. I just know it. I've been doing this for a while, so it just sits, like you can see that is it. So now I'm going to take the hip measurement just to be sure, and just did the little adjustment I needed to do. But right now, before I did that, I had already added 1 inch sewing allowance all through. So I'm just going to make the connections. Okay, blend off if there's any sharp edge. Your body is not sharp, you blend off. So now I'm inputting my sewing allowance on the hip side. Then I'm just going to connect it with the curve. I'm connecting the allowance to the allowance I already added there, if you can see, but I will reconnect it so you see, because I didn't explain that part. So now I'm connecting the main measurement, and now this is what we have. You can see that's the allowance, and I'm going to go ahead to blend off the sharp edges that I have. I connect it straight down to the baseline, that's the ankle, and blend off. Then we'll cut out for the front. So for the waistline, you're going to go up by the same side by 0.5 and connect it back to the baseline, like so, because this is a bandless pant trouser. Okay, So it's the side you're doing. If it was, it's a bandless high waist pant. Okay. If we're doing probably for a band trouser, you're going to go down by the crotch line by 0.5. But since we're doing a high waist, that's the difference between it. We're doing a high waist, you go up by the same side 0.5 and connect to the baseline. So now I'm going to add my sewing allowance on the crotch line and just cut. Don't worry, it's the measurement is accurate, it's 0.5. But I will still show you so you know it's 0.5. Like I was free handing it all. How do I say it? So now just go ahead and cut out your fabric. Cross check before you cut, please. Cross check all your measurements. Make sure they align. You see me when I was cutting, I found out that there's a sharp edge there. I was just blending it off because it's looking funny kind of. So you have to blend it off. Then you just cut out. I have a detailed tutorial on pattern drafting of a penciled pants. There's no difference in it. The only difference that is this is a high waist. That is a band one, but I'm going to link it in the description box below so you can see this is what the look that we have. Now we're going to cut for the back. So I've gone ahead to pin the fabric so that when I'm altering or moving things, it's not going to have issues. So for this side, the crotch line side, you're going to make sure you have a section of like 4 or 5 inch. That's where you will place, you mark a straight line, and then that's where you place the front pattern, the front one you've got to the place. There's a reason for it. Okay, it's for your crotch extension. So now I'm just going to trace out my hip line, my crotch line, okay, my crotch depth line, and my crotch line for the front panel. You see me making sure I trace it properly. Okay, so I'm just going to do that, then connect. So when I'm done marking out all that I need, I'm going to move the front one away a little because the alteration is more on the from the crotch part to the hip line. That's where the alteration is. So I'm just going to define my lines, then we'll start working on the back crotch depth. Remember the front crotch, the front depth and the front crotch extension. I divided my hip by 20, right? Okay, so keep that in mind. Then for the back, you're going to go down from the crotch line, you're going to go in by 1 inch. Please pay attention to this part. You're going to go in by 1 inch. For the waist, you're going to go in by 2 inch from the crotch line of the front. Then you're going to connect. It will give you like a slant look. It is perfect. Your back is slant. Your back is not straight. Okay. So now for the first line that I mark is no longer needed. I needed it to just alter the back. Okay. If it was in pattern drafting, it will look clearer. So now now we're working from the new line we've gotten. Then I'm going to measure my my waist measurement, divide it by 4 plus that allowance for the back. The back has a dart. I'm going to put that. That's my waist measurement. 1 inch for my dart allowance. Then 1 inch for sewing allowance for the upper part. Like I said, the alteration is from the crotch depth upward, not downward. Okay. So for the hip, I am going to divide my hip by 4. Whatever I have, I'll mark it on the hip line. Okay. Then I'm going to add 1 inch for ease. Emphasis on 1 inch for ease, then 1 inch sewing allowance. Okay. Now that that is done, I'm going to connect that line to the crotch line. Okay. On a straight form like so. Then connect the waist to the hip line. Okay. So now we're going to add 0.5 on the front, the both same side. Then for the crotch extension, divide your hip measurement by 10 for the back crotch extension. Whatever you have, you place your tape rule from that new line you connected and just connect it that way. Okay, connecting it that way, you don't have to do a deep curve. You just place your curve ruler. Once it touches the hip line, you are good to go. You don't need to extend the curve till it gets to where the extension stop for the back. You're good to go. This is how it should be. Okay, so now I'm going to add 0.5 on this side, and I'm going to add it all around down until the other side 0.5. Usually, your back is bigger than the front for if you're making a skirt, actually, for that gives a room to accommodate the hip and everything and give it that ease because of the um extension you added. Okay, so now I'm just going to connect it like so. The 0.5, 0.5. Mind you, there's already sewing allowance for the front panel. I only said the only place you need sewing allowance is from the waist to the hip depth. Okay, that's the crotch depth because that's where the alteration is. Okay, so I've replaced those allowance which I said. Then now we'll just connect. Please, if you have any question, if there's any way you are confused, just send me a message, drop a comment. I'll respond to you ASAP, or you send us a message on Instagram, or you can get our WhatsApp number through our Instagram ID. And write me a message directly, and I'm going to respond to you fast. Okay, and I will walk you hand in hand to achieve what you want for the trouser. Okay, so now I'm adding my sewing allowance and I'm cutting. I know the upper part will look funny, but don't worry. If you've never made a pant trouser before, you will have the best results, trust me, if you follow this method carefully. So now I am going to cut out. I always say I make a talking pants trouser and I'm not capping about it. So I'm done with that. I'm marking out all the signs like to know the back and the front side. Okay, so we're heading to sewing. So now for the back, I'm just going to sew the crotch line with this added allowance 0.5 that I added. Then I'm now marking out my dart measurement for the back. The dart depth for this trouser is 5 inch. The reason is 5 inch is because it's a 7 inch. Sorry, the reason is 7 inch is because it's a high waist. If it was a trouser with band, your dart depth is going to be 5 or 4, 4.5 or 5 or 4. Okay, I usually do 5, but this I'm doing 7. So by the time I'm done sewing with 0.5 and all that, I'm going to have like 6.5. Okay, which is perfect for me. Okay, so now I'm just going to connect my dart leg. Of course, if you don't know how to get you get your dart with the you divide your nipple to nipple. That's how you get your dart. Okay, so now I'm going to work on the front first because of the pockets. So here I'm going to show you how I cut my own pocket. There are different ways to do a pocket. Sewing is like cooking jollof rice, right? You derive the formula is almost the same, but once you get to master what works for you, you just find a way to make your work faster. Anyways, I've cut out what I need for this. I think I did 12 inches. Yeah, 12-inch straight line. Okay, depth 10 points, 12-inch or 11. You adjust it to suit you. Okay, so I'm going to go down by 6.5. Okay, that's the pocket length, 6.5. Then I'll come in here by 1 inch. Then for the upper part, the waistline, I went in by 2. So I connect it down to that 1 inch down there. And that is how I sew my pocket. I'm going to walk you through. So just watch. Even if I am talking too fast, you can watch and get what I'm doing. Okay. So I'm going to sew from that 2 inch upward down to the 1 inch I went down by. Right. Okay. Now this is the one I've done. I just want you to see this is the one I've done. This is how I've done it. The length I got, you're going to see the length. You're going to leave from your crotch line. Make sure the distance between there and where your pocket end is like 3 inch or 4 inch. Okay, 3 inch away from the crotch length. So now let me show you how I do it. That's the one I've worked on. So you sew. When you're done sewing that, you're going to use your hemming gun for the back of it. Okay, you notch, then you top stitch. While top stitching, I put my hemming gun. You can sew it alongside with it before top stitching. Okay, but this is how I usually do mine because I don't cut out before I sew. I sew it together. When I'm done sewing, I trim off. Okay, so I like top stitching from the front because it gives me view of what I'm working on, and it makes you don't have those bulge when you're top stitching. So now I'm just going to fold it back to this point like so, and back to this like so. Okay, and I'll pin. So just pin round. So I'm going to sew from here. I will sew leaving like 0.5 down. So just use your discretion. You turn like give it a curve. So before that 1 inch you went in that you stopped at the edge there, you stop 1 inch before then. Okay. What that will do for you is when you're matching, you know that the sewing allowance you added there is 1 inch. So when you're sewing your seam, it's not going to affect the pocket because sometimes when you sew into the pocket when you're sewing your seam, it gives I don't know, there's a shape it gives to a trouser there. Me, I don't like it, so I try to avoid it. Okay. So I'm just going to trim off, then turn it over to the other side and top stitch. While I was making this trouser, there was no light. Okay. So I top stitch. Supposed to sew and iron. That is how your garment is supposed to be done. But so by the time you iron now, you see everything will lay flat and it will come out nice. So what I'm just going to do, I will take to the machine and I'll top stitch all this part. Okay, but before I top stitch, I'll use my hand to bring out all the hidden edges. Okay, because there was no light to do it. So I have done that, and this is what we have. Our pocket has taken its full shape. Okay. So I'll pin secure there and secure there with the machine. So now I'm going to sew my crotch with the 0.5 I added there. A little tip, I sew a little more than 0.5 when I'm sewing my crotch measurement. Even if the sewing allowance is 0.5, I sew with 0.7 most of the time. It helps me give it that firm flatness. So now I'm cutting the facing for the band. The band is a bandless trouser. Okay, so the depth I use is 3.5. By the time I'm done sewing, I'll have 3. Then by the time I weave, I will have 2.5 or thereabout, or 3. Okay, that's the maths. So now I'm just going to notch the upper part so that I know where the shapes are not the same because of the hip curve. So I'm going to mark the upper part. This for the front. Then I'm going to cut out for the back, and I'm using a stay for it. Okay. And if you watch up to this point, you're not yet subscribed to our channel, please kindly subscribe to our channel. Leave a comment. If this video is helpful, share it with your loved ones. Okay. and like the video. So now this is the stay I'm going to use for it. I'm going to cut out the same thing, then gum it when there is light. Then the video will continue when we're done. So this is the dart that I sewn. You can see it. You have to sew your dart first for the back before you cut out the band, okay? So now they've brought light. Finally, I have ironed and ironed everything that I needed to iron. So you can see the pocket side. I want to show you. See how lovely it's looking. Okay. So this is what we have. You see the excess of the stay I put is when I iron, it's going to help that edge. You know, if you watch your chinos trousers or so, you see that they top stitch it, but I didn't top stitch for pant trouser. But it's the stay that gives it that neat stay that you need. So now I'm going to mark down 0.2 inch or 3 inch for the both side. Then I will sew my side seam first. Why I did that is because of the zip I'm going to put. I have to put the zip first before I will put the band. Okay, so I'm just going to sew. When I'm done sewing, you're going to see what I am talking about. Here I'm done sewing. This is what I said. I sewed down, then I'll just take out my pins. First, you sew the side first before sewing the inner thigh, okay? So I'm just going to take out my pins. So now to sew the inner thigh, I'm going to pin it round. It's very important to pin your inner thighs round. If not, sometimes you just find out that the legs are not aligning. It's not like your measurements are not accurate, but I don't know, it's usually like that. So it's best you pin. When you pin everything evenly first, then take to the machine and start sewing. It will all come out even. Okay, and make sure the edges are equal. Very important. You align the crotch depth with the back crotch depth, making sure it aligns. Okay. We are almost done. So I'm just going to sew on this added allowance. Remember the added allowance here is 0.5, okay? On the inseam for the inner thigh, okay? So I am done sewing it. This is what I have. Now it's time to fix the zip. By this point, you're supposed to iron. There's no light, so I didn't iron. If you have light, please kindly iron, okay? Thank you. So now I'm going to rip. You decide where you want your zipper to be, either left or right, okay? Whatever you choose to put your zip, you rip that part open, okay? To the point, to the high rise of your hip at most, okay? Then you retop stitch that place so that it won't start ripping from there. Don't forget to retop stitch, okay? So now that's me saying it there. So now I'm going to fix the zip, then fix my band, okay? I'll fix the zip band. This is the band, how I'm going to fix the band. So when you get to the hip, the zipper side, you're going to sew in from very close to the zip where you sew the first zip. You're going to sew like 0.2 away from it, okay? Then the back, the same thing. When you get to that point too, you do the same thing, okay? So now I have done that. By this point, if you have a weaving machine, you can weave before you do all this part, but there's no weaving machine. I'm taking it to commercial to weave. So you're going to top stitch your band when you're done sewing. Okay, the top stitch, then the edge here, you're going to notch it close to the zip. You're going to cut the excesses out so that when you fold, it's going to sit well. So this is what we're trying to achieve, a very neat side seam for the zipper side. Okay, so you flip it in and then iron. So if you have weaving machine, you weave before it, or um you fold it before sewing this part. It will make it come out perfect. Okay, so this is what I have. So I'm gonna do for this other side, and we're done. Then when we're done here, the sides, the side seam without the zipper, you sew it upward. Okay, don't forget that part. Give this video a thumbs up, like and share if you find it helpful, and kindly leave a comment. It helps the video. Okay, so I am done sewing everything. um this is what we have. So the side, the reason I said sew upward, where you flip it down, it's going to relax. So what you're going to do is you take to the machine, you're going to sew on the seam, top stitch on the seam, or you hold the edge here and sew this edge and sew this edge. I'm still going to show you that. I'm not supposed to, but I explained too much. Then you use your your hemming gum for it. Okay, for the band, it will help it relax. Okay, I'm just saying iron, weave iron, then I'm going to hold the band, the down of the band. You use your hemming gum first before you hand tack it. So this is what I have when I was done doing what I want to do. I want to show you how to secure. Here I did use needle for hemming it down. Right, there's a weaving machine for it though, but it's not every place you find it. So if you have a domestic machine, you can use it. There's a tool for it in the domestic machine. So you're going to sew the edges like this. Hold this edge and hold it. It will grip it and keep it. Thank you for watching. See you in my next one. Bye.